Hey, what's up? Lightbolt Joe here. Today we are going to discuss Walt Disney Pictures' feature film, The Santa Claus 2. This stars Tim Allen, Elizabeth Mitchell, David Krumholtz, Eric Lloyd, Jody Reinhold. I'm sorry, Judge Jody. I can't read. Where'd my glasses? Glasses are over there. Judge Reinhold, Wendy Crewson. So all of our main actors are back, reprising their roles as Laura, Neil, Charlie, Scott, Santa Claus. Carol is played by Elizabeth Mitchell. She's in here as a new character. Molly Shannon also is a character called Tracy. She's in one scene. She sings the Shania Twain song. Absolutely hysterical and perfect. But David Krumholtz back as Bernard, the number one elf. But then David's not in the third one, and I'm still upset about it, but whatever. Long live Bernard, the number one elf, with his curly hair and his fun pointed ears and his crazy hat. So the first clause, the first Santa clause of being Santa is that if you wear the suit, you therefore take the responsibility and identity as Santa and, you know, perpetuity, etc., legal terms, whatever. The second clause within the card, the same card, if you zoom in really quick, is that Santa, if he's not married, has to be married within a certain amount of time in holy matrimony, before Christmas Eve, the current Christmas Eve. So it's a matter of, in this brand new workshop that Santa has, it's all teched out. It's a new Santa, so it has to have new tech, right? You have Spencer Breslin, right? Is that his name? He plays Curtis, the number 2 elf. So you have the number 1 elf Bernard and the number 2 elf Curtis. So Curtis has gone through a book, you know, the Santa Code basically, and he's the one who found this second clause within the card. So Santa has to be known. And if Santa doesn't get married before Christmas Eve, the de-Santification process happens. So Santa has this meeting with all, you know, other mythological creatures, Mother Nature, Father Time, Sandman, Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy, and they're having a council meeting. And he brings this up, and they're like, no, like, you know, childhood happiness has been up 85% since you become Santa Claus over the last 8 years. So the first one was in 94, this one was in 02. It's been 8 years, long time. So Charlie's like 13, 14 in this film, but the de-Santification process has begun. So Scott goes to check on Charlie because Charlie's gets in a lot of trouble with the principal because he's been tagging, spray painting, and he's acting out. And the question is, why is he acting out? So as time goes on, Scott's de-Santification process is happening. He's losing a lot of weight, losing all his facial hair. His hair is going back to brown. He starts to, you know, get feelings for Principal Newman, who is the principal who keeps, you know, having Charlie do detention, who keeps catching Charlie doing, you know, graffiti and tagging. But then there's a relationship that starts to form. He surprises the faculty Christmas party with retro games, toss across, and, you know, easy bake ovens, and Rock'em Sock'em Robots, a bunch of the Green Ghost game, like a bunch of retro games, which the collector in me screams when I see them out of the box, and I'm like, oh my god, why? So it's really cool. That was an expensive scene to film. Let me tell you, from 60s to 70s board games, incredible amount of money spent on that. Even if they just rented them. How do you put an ad out? Wanted. Retro games from Milton Bradley and Parker Brothers. Need them for a scene. Here's X amount of dollars. That's kind of funny. So Carol starts to fall in love with Scott. Scott starts to fall in love with Carol, but then he confesses that he's Santa Claus, and she doesn't believe him, and she thinks he's making fun of him, so they go their separate ways. Charlie then confronts Scott and says, how could you be dating my principal? You know, it's not fair. My whole life's been about secrets. I had the best dad in the world. He has the greatest job in the world, and I can't tell anybody. And now all of a sudden you're dating my principal? Like, my whole life is about secrets. I can't stand it. It's not fair. And to see Eric break down and cry for that scene, that's pretty cool. Because, like, you've seen this kid as a kid. He was 5 years old, 6 years old, portraying, you know, Charlie Calvin in the first Santa Claus, and then here he is 13, 14 years old, you know, getting emotional and like reliving the last 8 years in that scene. Like, it's still, what, 18 years later, it's still like it profoundly affects me when I watch this film, and I'm like, yeah, like life shouldn't be about secrets. That's not cool. So how does Scott make amends with Charlie, and how does Scott get back to the North Pole? Because while this is happening, Curtis makes a duplicate Santa as a toy to be in charge of the North Pole, while Scott deals with finding a wife and Charlie's delinquency, stuff like that. So Curtis, after all hell breaks loose at the North Pole, takes a jetpack, goes to Charlie and company's house. Comet, who Scott originally took to get to the house to spend the 28 days with there, is fat as all hell, filled with Nestle candy. Hysterical product placement there. McDonald's was also a very poignant product placement in the first third of the movie. So how do they get back to the North Pole? Well, you have to take a ride from the Tooth Fairy, obviously. So Lucy is Laura and Neil's daughter. She's about 6 years old-ish in this film. She calls Scott Uncle Scott. Even though she knows that he's Charlie's dad, she calls him Uncle because he's still technically a part of the family, because they are a family. So once the Tooth Fairy goes to try to collect Lucy's tooth, Scott pinches his wing, pulls him into the hallway. He explains what's going on. Curtis and Scott get a ride to the North Pole. They save the day after the elves, led by Bernard, of course. Long live Bernard. Takes charge in a snowball fight and dismantling the toy soldiers that the toy Santa had created, because all the kids deserve coal, obviously. And then Charlie talks to Principal Newman, Carol, and says, listen, like, I get it if you don't want to believe in Santa, but you shouldn't, because he is my dad, and like, just look in the snow globe, the same snow globe that Bernard gave him. Remember when you used to believe in Christmas? Like, it's real. Like, seeing isn't believing, believing is seeing. Just remember. And that's the point of the first movie. Seeing isn't believing, believing is seeing. Perfect. Love it. Love that quote. It should be tattooed on my body somewhere. I don't know where, but it should be. It's a perfect quote. So Charlie and Principal Newman hitch a ride then again with the Tooth Fairy after Charlie knocks his own tooth out, go to the North Pole, help save the day, and then eventually Scott has to propose to Carol after realizing he can't truly become Santa again unless he's married because of this clause, the second Santa Claus. Carol accepts. He turns into Santa again. Santa and Charlie fly off into the sleigh and save the day, and then post-credit is, everybody dancing and having fun and, singing Christmas songs. So this was a really cool follow-up. Again, it's not the same North Pole. It's not the same Santa's Workshop, and I love the first Santa's Workshop, especially the giant train. Absolutely love it. But it's still great because it's the same set that they use in the third movie. So I really like this movie. I loved seeing it with my family in the theaters back in 2002. I was, 12 when that came out? So I was, 7th grade? Figured November 2002 is when the movie came out, give or take, I assume. So I was in 7th grade. So for a 7th grader to be seen out in public with his family at a Christmas movie, unheard of, because you have to be cool, right? Stigmas. So weird. Okay. Go watch the Santa Claus trilogy. It's on Disney+. We're going to watch the third, and we're going to talk about how awesome that one is as well. It's actually funnier than this one, but it's hearsay. Mucho mahalo.